now on the WHAS11 night team after Monday Night Football, keeping the lights on and the doors open at JCPS.
This is not a situation where administrators were wasting money, per se, on lavish trips.
Is the financial situation so bad they'll have to start selling off assets to make payroll? Tonight, the brand new Revenue Task Force meets, and we're there. And then, only tonight, the Southern Indiana sheriff accused of lavish spending but has never been prosecuted.
Oh, do you have time for an interview?
So why no charges in Jasper, Indiana? Our Focus investigator Travis Breeze continues his investigation with that very question to the prosecutor. Exclusive and only right now on the WHAS 11 Night Team. Breaking news first right now here on the WHAS 11 Night Team. We're keeping an eye on I-264, the Shawnee Expressway in West Louisville. As you can see right now on the upper right part of your screen, the lanes are all blocked at the moment after a very bad crash that happened at about 10:30 tonight. And you are looking live at the Trimark camera that is centered in this area. The crash is in the eastbound lanes of the Shawnee Expressway. This is just past Dumanil. Now we're waiting for information from police about what happened. We've been in contact with Metro Police, but so far we can tell you Trimark is reporting that it involves two vehicles. That's all we know at the moment. They are reporting, though, that Shawnee will be shut down for at least 3 hours. Again, this crash happening first at about 10:30 tonight. And now we want to switch to give you a live look at downtown Louisville. Our other big story tonight, Metro Louisville has escaped the dangerous rainfall amounts tonight, but flash flood warnings have dominated our counties just to the east and north of downtown tonight, even Clark County, Indiana. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt, and we thank you for staying up a little late with us tonight. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell. And Mallory, are you getting any reports of any problems so far for people in those communities with this very heavy rain?
Hey there, Doug. Thankfully, no major reports out of this flash flood warning. That's still in place for Clark, Oldham, and Trimble counties until 1 a.m. You've likely seen it scrolling at the bottom of your screen there on the red bar. This is because in this general area, we saw anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of estimated rainfall. Now, big picture view, many of us picked up about an inch on average. Of course, we had locally higher amounts today where we saw some reports up to about 2 inches of rainfall. Still going to be tracking some scattered activity overnight before we have a bit of a lull for your Tuesday, but we'll talk much more about our rain chances throughout the week. It's a much more active week. That's coming up shortly in our 7-day forecasts. Doug?
All right, busy in the weather department tonight. Thank you very much, Mallory. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Also happening tonight, keeping the lights on and paying the salaries at JCPS. Well, the school district now has a January deadline to figure out the deficit of $188 million. The finance department tonight saying even with the cuts, they're going to have to sell off some of the district's assets next October to pay salaries. WHAS 11 Night Team's Alex Dederer and photojournalist Aspen Hester heard from the Revenue Advisory Board tonight with one big question: will your taxes be going up?
Regardless of what has or has not changed in our understanding and messaging of this situation, today, the fact is we have a $188 million deficit.
JCPS Chief Financial Officer Eddie Munns saying the economic state of the district is more dire than originally thought. JCPS now needs to cut an additional $80 million from the upcoming school year budget for a total of $188 million.
That we understand the severity of what is in front of us and that we are facing it with eyes wide open. We are not going to be spending the same amount of money in the next budget year. We cannot. But we also have to explore our revenues.
Board member James Craig is now chair of the Revenue Advisory Task Force, created by Superintendent Brian Yearwood in August to help guide the district towards fiscal stability amidst the historic deficit. But will property tax rates be going up again? Craig said all available tax options are on the table.
With $186 or $188 million of a deficit that we need to make up for next year, it's not known yet how we're going to get there. But it's up to that man and his cabinet at their Monday morning meetings to figure that out for us.
Craig making it clear he believes the money was well spent.
We don't believe that there was misuse of funds anywhere in the spending over the last couple of years. Everybody who was here everybody who is here was spending money because they want results for kids.
And time is of the essence. The board is working with an urgent and immediate deadline of January 2026. Last week, when the board approved the working budget, the financial department made clear the JCPS cash flow will dry up by October of next year if the current level of spending continues.
The signs are irrefutably clear that next fall we will be selling off assets in order to pay payroll, and the fall after that we will not have enough assets to sell off anymore.
Finding ways to cut spending, increase revenue, and keep JCPS afloat. In Louisville, Alex Dieterwer, the WHAS 11 night team on your side.
Again, this brand new update coming our way tonight at that meeting. The board will receive a working budget by January, and that's when they're going to know what kind of tax rate for the city of Louisville will be in the next year. The budget will get final approval, board approval, in September of next year.
All in favor? All opposed? 4-1. That passes.
And the night team is in Bullitt County tonight. Happening there tonight, the Bullitt County School Board voting on the district's realignment plan, and it passed. Now, that vote is meant to spread students out across even more of Bullitt County. This includes closing Nichols Elementary School and sending those students 12 miles away to Brooks Elementary School. Shelby Hutchinson, an alum and a parent of a student who goes to the school, says they're disappointed, while others and the superintendent, Jesse Bacon, say closing Nichols will benefit the schools overall.
Every dollar spent keeping the building open is a dollar we can put in the new student's school to help the teachers, students, technology.
They didn't allow anybody in the community to really put their 2 cents in enough to really make a difference. It didn't matter what the parents had to say tonight. It didn't matter how the parents felt. It didn't matter how the county felt. They had their own decision made, and they were not taking into account what any of us felt.
Well, Superintendent Jesse Bacon promised the building would still be used for the community in some fashion. Now, right now on the WHAS 11 night team, our exclusive follow-up for you to the story of a Southern Indiana sheriff and his spending. We first reported on this 2 weeks ago. It's a case that sounds so familiar to the spending of former Clark County, Indiana Sheriff Jamie Knoll, who is now in prison. But instead, the Du Bois County Sheriff remains on the job. Focus investigative reporter Travis Breeze has been trying to find out why no charges were filed in this case, and now we have documents that prove the special prosecutor closed the case without talking to the lead detective.
Oh, do you have time for an interview?
An elected prosecutor in Southern Indiana has refused to sit down with me for weeks to discuss a case she was appointed to investigate.
And I think the outcome is completely wrong.
Doug Carter retired in January as head of the Indiana State Police. He's talking about the Du Bois County Sheriff Tom Kleinhelter case.
Anyone else in Indiana would have been arrested, period.
In July 2024, the Indiana State Board of Accounts found Kleinhelter improperly spent nearly $17,000 from his jail commissary from 2019 to 2023. An audit shows he was taking his wife to law enforcement conferences with him, paying for her airfare and registration on the county dime. He spent nearly $8,000 buying Blackstone grills and Visa gift cards for his deputies. The audit said those purchases were not allowed by Indiana law.
It's not an account that you can just use with whatever you want.
Kleinhelter paid back the full amount the audit identified 1 month before it came out. Then a state police investigation began under Carter's watch. Detective Troy Stanton was the lead investigator.
The issue with the Stanton efforts was that there was no documentation done. There wasn't a case report completed. There were only a few cursory interviews that were done.
Carter asked Lieutenant Jeff Herron to step in, who was at the time the lead investigator in the Jamie Knoll case in Clark County.
Jeff just finished the most complicated one in our history. And I initially asked Jeff, Jeff, hey, look, just peer review this with him. And that didn't seem to be working at all.
Carter says he formally appointed Herron and removed Stanton in September 2024.
Hi, Troy. This is Travis Breeze with WHAS 11 News.
I tried to reach Stanton for his side, and he did not respond. In one of Herron's search warrants, which is a public document, he alleged another $8,700 in improper spending, which Kleinhelter then repaid. He accused the sheriff of lying about getting airline points instead of cash when canceling a flight in an attempt to not reimburse the commissary. He also found Kleinhelter attempted to make his wife a special deputy after all the spending.
He was going to do things that were impractical and probably illegal.
Kleinhelter has also declined an interview with Focus for this story, but I did speak to him briefly last Monday.
Do you feel like there's things you're not allowed to say? Who's not allowing you to say that?
He said it was at the advice of his attorney. The sheriff never faced any charges, but Carter is challenging how the case ended. According to emails Focus received from a records request, the special prosecutor, Holly Huddleston of Orange County, had a private meeting with Kleinhelter and his attorney to discuss the closure of the case. She said all the money was returned and Kleinhelter cleared up some inconsistencies in the case.
Would it have been common practice for the lead detective in the case to be involved in any meeting of that capacity?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the detective that did all the work for sure.
I interviewed Carter again after getting this email chain. Detective Heron pushed back when he learned the case would be closed with no charges. He asked for his own meeting with Huddleston and said Troy Stanton did not do an adequate job. Huddleston forwarded Jeff's email to Stanton, who was no longer on the case.
There's a tremendous amount of this that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
After avoiding Focus for over a month, we found Huddleston coming back from a lunch break last Monday.
We just got your email chain with Jeff Heron that you forwarded to Troy Stanton. I just wondered if you could comment on why you would forward this information to someone who's no longer the lead detective on the case.
It had to do with Troy. It was pertaining to Troy as well, so I just forwarded it to him.
Why did you hold a meeting to discuss the closure of the case without Jeff?
That's all the response I got. Stanton forwarded the email to the new assistant superintendent of ISP, saying he and Huddleston had discussed it, and to say the least, she and I are not happy.
What do you think Troy and Huddleston are unhappy about?
The truth. The truth.
What do you think the truth is?
In some way or in some form, they decided that this case would go away.
ISP leadership politely declined my offer for an interview, referring me back to Huddleston. In July 2025, court records show Jeff Heron was disciplined for being overbearing in his email to Holly Huddleston and disclosing information to Du Bois County officials during the investigation. Carter says he was just doing his job.
But Jeff's now got to explain this in pending homicide trials. He's got to explain this in the Jamie Knoll case. They ruined a guy. They put a mark on a 40-year guy that didn't deserve it.
Heron's attorney gave Focus a statement saying, in part, his top-tier work product was set aside for an unknown reason and disciplinary charges were manufactured. The number of people who won't talk about this case alarms Carter.
I've not had any conversation or response at all. My number's the same. Don't expect them to call me.
He says he'll keep talking until everyone owns their part of the investigation. With photojournalist Aspen Hester, Travis Breeze, WHAS11 on your side.
A follow-up to our ongoing investigation right there tonight. More of our top stories here on the night team this evening. A former Southern Indiana police officer is sentenced to 15 months in prison. 52-year-old Todd Wilson pleading guilty to making a false statement while purchasing a gun. Wilson once served as a Jeffersonville, Indiana police officer and was an evidence custodian there for the police department. Wilson took advantage of his position by lying while purchasing 9 guns on 8 separate occasions from a licensed firearms dealer from 2020 to 2021 in Indiana. However, Wilson forged official signatures and bought the guns for personal use. He also sold a firearm for $400 and gifted 3 pistols to 2 other people. In November of 2021, he was placed on leave. In September 2022, he retired from the department. Wilson will also get 1 year of supervised release after serving his time. Right here next on the WHAS 11 night team. At this time tomorrow night, he will be back on the air with you. ABC makes its decision on Jimmy Kimmel Live after suspending the show last Wednesday. The political dynamics behind it all.